As a footballer, making the right choice about the club to join at a young age is very, very important. If you get it wrong, it could ruin your entire career before it even starts. Having said that, let's now check out some footballers who made some unusual choices when they were younger. But those choices turned out to be the right ones. Here are 10 young footballers who rejected big clubs for unconventional paths. And we'll start with Dominic Szoboszlai. The guy just landed a big Liverpool deal now at the age of 22. But he could have actually joined a big club some years back if he wanted. After he blew up, playing for RB Salzburg in Austria, many big clubs wanted him. Reports say that the likes of Real Madrid, Arsenal and Bayern Munich wanted to sign the attacking midfielder. But he didn't think choosing any of those clubs at that time would help his development as a young player. So he moved to RB Leipzig instead in January 2021 at the age of 20. At Leipzig, he saw sufficient game time and that really helped improve his abilities. Now, after 2.5 years of balling and improving at Leipzig, he has finally landed a huge move to Liverpool, and this only looks like the beginning of his career. Another young player who landed a huge deal this summer after turning one down some years back is Jude Bellingham. As you all know, Real Madrid just made the Englishman the most expensive player in the club's history. But his path could have been very different had he made a different decision earlier in his career. In 2020, after he'd blown up at Birmingham City, he was bound to leave the club, and Man United appeared to really want him. He was just 17 at the time, but he had the presence of mind to turn them down because he felt that he wasn't ready for a big move yet. He looked at Dortmund and their reputation of developing young talents, so he moved there in 2020. Fast forward 3 years later, and he earned that huge move to Real Madrid. That might not have happened if he had opted to join United 3 years ago. And speaking of Dortmund developing young talents, that's very evident in Erling Haaland. The lad blew up at RB Salzburg and was immediately targeted by some of the biggest clubs in Europe. Man United and Juventus were at the forefront of the race, but Haaland turned down these two European giants in favour of a move to Dortmund. Why? Because he wanted to first grow before landing a big move. And grow he did, and land a big move he also did. Now at Manchester City, the Norwegian has already done it all in club football in just his first season. And you know what? That Salzburg to Dortmund pipeline has to be studied because Karim Adeyemi also went down that path. The German-Nigerian kid blew up as a teenager playing for Salzburg, and the likes of Barcelona and Liverpool were trying to get him over to their clubs. But Adeyemi chose Dortmund because he saw how successful Haaland was at the club. And don't be surprised if you see that guy land a huge deal in a season or two, because the choice to go to Dortmund is looking like a smart one, as always. But hey, not every kid who rejects a big offer moves to Dortmund. Victor Osimhen, for example, turned down Arsenal in 2016 and moved to Wolfsburg instead. The Nigerian striker gained world fame after he tore things apart at the Under-17 World Cup in 2015. He won the trophy for Nigeria and was the top scorer at the tournament. So Arsene Wenger himself called Osimhen and made him an offer to bring him over to the Emirates. But he could not guarantee the Nigerian regular playing time. So Osimhen decided to go to Wolfsburg instead. At first, it didn't look like the smartest choice, to be honest, because he really struggled and injuries made it worse for him. But things eventually picked up, and then he earned a move to Lille and then to Napoli, and the rest, as they say, is history. You know another striker who Wenger called early in his career? Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He was just 17 when the Arsenal boss called him and told him to come and trial at the club. But Zlatan turned down the offer because, in his words, Zlatan doesn't do auditions. Anyway, not long after he shut down Arsenal, Zlatan moved to Ajax, who, at the time, were not as big as Arsenal. He was able to really develop himself at Ajax, and then he earned himself a move to Juventus at the age of 23. That turned out to be the first big move of many in a long and very illustrious career. Another guy who definitely belongs on this list is Bruno Guimaraes. The Brazilian was approached by Atletico Madrid in 2020 when he was just 22, but he turned them down in favour of a move to Lyon, where he was guaranteed regular playing time. Now he'll be playing in the Champions League anyway, but this time as one of the most important players at Newcastle. So that turned out to be the smart choice. João Felix will probably be looking at Bruno and wondering what would have happened if he didn't make that move to Atletico Madrid when he did. And what about Enzo Fernandez? When he blew up at River Plate at the age of 21, he was scouted by many top European clubs, reportedly including Man United and Real Madrid. But he turned down all of them to move to Benfica instead. It looked strange at first, but the boy wanted a club where he could play regular football so he could make it to the 2022 World Cup. Well, it turned out to be nothing short of the very best idea. He went to the World Cup, helped Argentina win it, won the FIFA World Cup Young Player Award, and then secured a British record transfer move to Chelsea in January 23. See? One unconventional but really good move could really change your life. And you know what? Sometimes the case is that these young ballers have the courage to leave the big club they're in just so they can play more. Like Xavi Simons, for example. This guy was a Barcelona player at the age of 7. He then moved to PSG at the age of 16. So when it comes to being at big clubs and around big players, Simons had a lot of experience. But he wasn't getting regular playing time at PSG, so in 2022, at the age of 19, he took a downgrade, leaving PSG to join PSV in the Eredivisie. And don't get it wrong, PSG actually wanted to extend his contract to keep him at the club, but he said no. It looked like a very silly decision at first, but after just one season, we all saw the sense in it. Xavi Simons announced himself to the world in that season in the Netherlands. He finished up as the joint top scorer in the Dutch league in just his first season there. And guess what? He did that playing from the midfield. Crazy! Now PSG appear to want him back, and Arsenal are reportedly in the race for his signature too. All thanks to that unconventional move last summer. And of course, we just could not go without talking about Kylian Mbappe. When he was just a kid at the Clairefontaine Academy, everybody knew that Mbappe would take the world by storm. So the biggest clubs in Europe were fighting for his signature. No kidding, Bayern, Man City, Liverpool, and of course Real Madrid all wanted to sign the kid who was just 13 or 14 at the time? But what option did he pick? Monaco. Many would have looked at him as if he was crazy back then. You had all those footballing giants scrambling for your signature and you picked Monaco. I mean, come on, man. Anyway, that turned out to be the very best decision because Mbappe was able to improve himself massively with little to no pressure at Monaco. Then at 18, he landed a big move to PSG and his career just entered the next level. Now he's 24 and he could be getting an even bigger move. Very interesting, isn't it? Anyway, now that we've looked at players who rejected big clubs for unconventional paths which eventually worked out, can you give us the opposite in the comments? Players who took offers from big clubs and it turned out to be bad for their careers. You know, players like Luka Jovic and Jadon Sancho, for example.